Hello, evolutionaries. Welcome to season 2. I am your host, Lorena Mitchell of Evolution Greenworks. We have a real special guest here today. Her name is Laura Tyler from, oh my goodness, Laura, I'm not going to do it this time again. It's Sustainable Building Manitoba, and they have a conference coming up. We're going to talk about the details. Laura, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Excellent, excellent. I don't know that a whole lot of Manitobans actually know a lot about your organization, and I have to say there's some really amazing things going on with industry that are connected to you guys. Do you want to tell me about what it is, or how did you guys even come to be?
Yeah, totally. We started off as the local chapter of CGBC, and eventually Manitobans just wanted to forge their own path, making sure that we're focused on more than just the lead pieces. And so Sustainable Building Manitoba was born. And we've been around for a number of years, and we are a membership-based organization, so you can absolutely get involved. And we just have a lot of really wonderful people from the sector who are involved in the work that we're doing. We do education, we do promotion, and we do advocacy. And so there's lots to do in buildings because, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you, building sustainably and energy efficiency is the low-hanging fruit of climate action. We know what to do. We just need to make sure it happens.
I agree with you. If we build it right the first time, then it's a lot less cost to do this later, and it's a much lower energy footprint as well.
Totally.
What is your typical member like? Where are they coming from?
It just depends. Some of them are architects. Some of them are working in construction. We've got a few union people who are doing the trades stuff. So we really do have a nice diversity of people who are working there. It's quite nice because one of the problems that we face in society is people working in their own little silos. So the fact that we have such nice representation from across the sector is just really great to make sure that we're forging ahead in ways that are beneficial to all areas and not just having a blind spot because we don't have the right people at the table.
Well, yeah, and that's truly what it is. And I think the reason why I wanted to touch on who are your members is because I think there's a lot of people who care about social justice. They care about the environment. They care about Manitoba, and they feel like because they don't work in the industry, they don't have a voice. And that's not true, is it?
I don't think so. I think that everyone has a voice. Also, most of us spend most of our time in buildings. I'm in a building right now. You're in a building right now. So even if we're not working in the sector, certainly what happens with buildings impact us every single day. And even as we saw with this illness, this pandemic that we've been in, suddenly ventilation is on everybody's radar. And so talking more about things like that, being aware, it's not just a matter of building for a better future, but also making sure that we're building properly right now and making sure everyone's safe in the spaces that they're existing.
That's true, actually. Didn't the Manitoba schools, just quite a few of the divisions got some money for ventilation for their schools? Because it was recognized that it just wasn't appropriate for the students and it was going to cause more infections from COVID.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know that sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Oh, I was just going to say, we know that Manitoba is on the brink of building 20 new schools. And so we do need to make sure that people have the information that they need to build best, as you said, the first time that they build. There is always the options of retrofitting, making upgrades to your existing building, but it was always cheaper, more cost effective, and you're using less materials if you do it right the first time. So, but not everybody knows about buildings. I've been in the environmental community for a long time, and I didn't think that much about buildings until I got involved with SBM. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's really nice to know that there's a straightforward actions that we can take, and that we just need to make sure people have the right information, and we can show that there's the political will to do what needs to be done.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And every organization I've been involved with and or have spoken to around these different topics related to energy improvement, modeling, whether it be saving energy, I mean, it always comes back to the building. I mean, it is incredible. If your foundation isn't right, it makes all the other problems exponentially more, and harder to deal with, more money to deal with it. So if we can just build it right, you know,
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
about the footprint of the building and what you know it's going to consume over its lifespan. I know is Jim Nostad? Is he on your?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
on
mean,
board cost of building ownership. That's an idea we push a lot. You know, if you're going to fix your roof, why not make sure you get that roof that's going to last for the decades longer than some of the shingle options? Because you're
yep,
saving not only money, but also those materials. And we have to remember that there is a carbon footprint associated with any of the materials that we use. And so
yeah,
making
I
those
absolutely agree. Yeah, building it right the first time. Now, how much does it cost versus how much is it if you replace it 5 times? Or how much does it cost to destroy? I mean, and these kinds of associations need to be made, and this is the kind of work that you guys are doing, and that you guys, the awareness that you guys are bringing to the table, which is phenomenal. Because aren't you also advocating for policy?
Yeah, we do.
So,
We do.
want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that function?
Absolutely. We know that that individuals can only do so much, and what we need to see is big systems change. So we know that the
Yeah.
government has a huge role to play in terms of what are the building codes. And as you probably know, Manitoba is a whole building code cycle behind. And so that really falls down to the fact that we need to advocate to make sure, again, that the decision makers have the information they need to make the best decision possible. So we've been advocating a lot at the City of Winnipeg level to make sure that they're investing in sustainability. We have also been doing a lot of advocacy around the green schools. And we're just like following along to make sure that there's different opportunities to make sure that, again, people have the information that they need and that we as a sector are working together to push that information. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, politicians will say, you know, like there just isn't the interest in this. This isn't like where we are right now. So we need to show
Right.
them that's not the case. And to do that, we need to work together.
Absolutely. Um, Now, when you say that it's a whole building cycle behind, some Manitobans actually probably don't know anything about this. They just get the end effect of when it actually does happen. I know 2010 for sure it happened because that's when HVAC became mandatory.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's pretty disappointing to see that Manitoba didn't adopt the latest code cycle. So, just briefly, for those who don't know, building codes are set at a federal level, and then each province kind of goes in and makes sure that those codes make sense for their climate, make sense for like where they are as a province in terms of their workforce development and other pieces like that. And so, unfortunately, we just didn't adopt the last round. And so that means that we're building
right.
less energy efficient buildings than the rest of the country. And it means that we're in a little bit of a sticky spot right now in terms of what to do with the new codes that are being released right around now. They say that provinces have the drafts of the newest, latest building codes. So we'll see what Manitoba does around that. And we're working, again, listening to people in different corners, because just because it would work fine for this area to push straight through to the new adoption of the latest codes doesn't mean that it would work over here. And to build a good building, you really need to look at it all together. You know, what you do over here impacts what happens over here. So we're listening, trying to figure out
Yeah.
exactly what the sector wants, and making sure that we're lobbying and advocating for the best possible outcome for all Manitobans. Because as you said, if you build right the first time, it's better in the long run. And the codes are the place that people go to make sure that they know what they are supposed to be building. And a lot of people won't build above codes. You absolutely can. Building codes will be the minimum. You can always go above, but we want to make sure that minimum is as energy efficient as possible.
It's funny. I get asked the question, given that I own Evolve Green, and I get asked the question from people from buildings and all of these things from their standpoint. How do we make our buildings solar ready? And they're usually talking about electrically, and I'm like, no, build it right so that I don't need very much solar, so that
Yeah.
your footprint covers the amount of solar that will net zero or 50% offset or whatever you're trying to achieve for the home. But here's the other thing. Electrically speaking, it's not much. Reinforce the roof, create a good product, a good foundation for this system. Doesn't need the footprint, right? So less solar.
Yeah, you're saying
Simple.
That's exactly the approach that we advocate for. You know, make sure
Yeah,
you get into your house before you try and switch away your fuels, which absolutely most homes are heated by natural gas right now, which does have greenhouse gas emissions. So we definitely need to move away from that. But you want to make sure the first thing you do before you install solar or whatever else you're going to be doing is make sure you have a good building envelope. So as you said, the foundations,
absolutely.
the roof, the
Yeah.
walls, the doors, the windows, that's what makes up the building envelope. And making sure that that's good and tight so that you're being as energy efficient as possible means that you're not building over capacity, which again saves you money.
It does. Down the road, it really does. These are the low hanging fruit, as we mentioned. This is always the place to start. I'm not going to advocate that you don't get solar, but just do it right. And when you implement it right, the solar system is, under $20,000 all day long for the average home, and even less. I've have some that are closer to $12,000 for install complete. If you want batteries, 20,000. But you know what I mean? Like you can have everything if that building is right from the beginning. So who do we need to talk to about that? Well, first we need to change policy, right? And that's where you guys come in.
Yeah,
And and sometimes it's not even about recreating the wheel here. It's about trying to hold them to what they're already talking about, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's a combination of making sure that, again, the building codes are where they need to be, but that there's also the incentives. So, like, a lot of people can't afford even that $20,000 outright. So, do we have the loans in place? Do we have the legislation in place that we can make sure that instead of you having the loan tied to you for the rest of your life, even after you sell your house, that it's instead tied to the property, to the hydro meter. And so that way, when you sell your house and you sell the benefit of what you did in terms of adding the solar or the heat pumps or whichever,
Oh
that
yeah.
that benefit moves with the loan as well. So making sure that's in place is huge. It's a big piece,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's the making it more doable, make it more transferable, and make it mainstream and just normal.
Totally, totally. It's
So
as I said,
if we
the
talk
fact
about
that
Alberta, the power companies are the ones installing the solar. They contract us, not the customer. It's
mm,
all like either lease to own or loan. Usually, it's just a part of their energy systems. Like what what we talk about what's coming is actually here in Canada. Other provinces are doing this now. So this isn't out there. This isn't the Jetsons, my friend. This is
I
definitely what's happening now, and
totally.
it is here. So how's this going to impact with Manitoba Hydro? Well, we don't know that, but you know what? We do know that the face of this energy uh, conglomerate that's happening, this soul mono structure, is going to, because it has to change in order to meet the 2050 targets for fuel free. Absolutely has to change. Also, with age infrastructure, you know, there's no way they're going to have to be able to replace everything. Um, what they've wrought over 80 years is just, you know what I mean, trying to now, with a lot of it being very aged, it's very difficult and very cumbersome and expensive for them to change. So they're going to have to, if they're going to implement so much more electrical, we have to do a lot of things on a lot of different planes here. So number one, build it right first.
Absolutely.
And number two, keep them to their policies and on target, because otherwise we're not going to make the 2050 goal. And then from there, we need to have standalone and energy systems. So these aren't systems that are necessarily off grid. They're actually working with the grid. And this is where I see the future, because they're doing it in other places, is that it becomes integrated with your grid. Um, so it is independent. So in other words, it's expected to run your facility, but when you have excess power, it's utilizing it to help out in other pieces of the grid, and they call that a smart grid.
Yep.
So every 2 or 3 homes is going to have this, and this is how they're going to create the infrastructure they need in order to meet those 2050 goals. Now, exciting! You guys have a conference coming up. When is it happening, and how is that going to roll out?
Yeah, so this year we took we used to do a day of learning where we would just have one big day. But then with everybody being online, we decided to do it a little bit differently. And so last year we had it over the course of 3 days in a single week. This year we've decided to spread it over the month. So every Thursday afternoon, starting next Thursday, March 10th,
Ooh.
from 1:30 to 4:30, come and join and hear four exciting speakers talk about what's coming in Manitoba. What do you need to know as somebody who's interested in sustainable building to learn more? So here you just switched over to the screen. So look, there's Jim right there. So talking about total cost of building ownership, because a lot of people are afraid to do investments and retrofits and building more sustainably because they think it costs more. It doesn't. But money is still a huge thing. So let's hear from Dennis Cunningham over at ACU, Assiniboine Credit Union, to talk a little bit about financing and green buildings. The climate action team in Manitoba has been working on the road to resilience. And so let's hear about the numbers from Kurt Hall, the lead author there. And then also on the subject of economics and business cases, what's going on with when you do try and sell your building? So we're going to have Peter Squire from the Winnipeg Regional Real Estate Board come and talk to us, and somebody from the commercial sector is also going to be joining him. So we'll hear a little bit about what happens when you've made an energy efficient home. What are the real estate agents hearing on the ground? Because we know money is a huge factor as we move through these things. So we're also going to hear from Dr. Alex Wilson and Jacob Mans about One House, Many Nations, which is an exciting project that's going on in some First Nations here on the prairies. Building codes. Well, we've talked a lot about those already. We know that they're coming. What's in them? What does it mean for Manitoba? So we're going to have Rick Marshall talking a little bit about that, and Joe Kasprick from the province of Manitoba will be there to answer your questions. And a lot of things are happening at the federal level. So from Efficiency Canada, we're going to have somebody come and talk to us about what's going on federally and how to plug into some of that work. So, for example, Efficiency Canada put together a scorecard every year. This year, Manitoba fell from number 6 to number 8. So they're doing a really good job of not just like helping us understand where we are, but where we are in the context of the rest of the country. We're going to have Leanne from the province of Manitoba talking to us about what's going on in Manitoba, what's coming, etc. And then the final day of talks on Thursday, March 24th, we'll have somebody talking to us about building certification. So again, we were talking about the ventilation. Are we going to start to like come up to a building and see decal on the door saying this building has this level of ventilation certification? How healthy is this building? So we'll hear a little bit about what's going on in that field. Cindy Chow and Robin are going to join us here from talking about advocacy. So Robin's going to be talking a little bit about some of the successes in BC and what we can learn from those. And Cindy's going to dig a little bit more into like the advocacy that we here at SBM are pushing for and hoping to engage more people in that. Climate change is a huge risk. Let's hear some more about how to manage that risk, how to assess it, from Jeff O'Driscoll. And then finally, we can have the best building codes in the world, but if we don't have the workforce that can build to those standards, then we're still in the same place we are right now. And so we're going to hear from Tanya Paulson from Manitoba Building Trades and
That's
Jack
so
Horan
important
from
too, right?
MAIA. Yeah, it's huge, huge.
Because I mean, they implemented for the Greener Home program, and we didn't have enough energy evaluators. Just a quick example.
Absolutely.
Now, so if you have like 5 codes that are implemented, and there's like one person in the province that can perform it, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So you're right. As they roll out, that they actually do have to look at these individual things. Do we have manufacturing? Do we have personnel? And do we have the expertise?
Absolutely. Nailed it. Absolutely. And so one of the things that SBM does do as part of our work is we are trying to identify what the training gaps are, what training is available out there, and connect people with that information, because you don't know what you don't know. And so making sure that people have more information means that they can make better choices. And so that's one of the big pieces of the work that we do.
Excellent. So that's March 10th in the afternoon from 1:30 to 4 p.m.
Well, that's actually 3 days. So the first 4 are March 10th. Then we join again on Thursday, March 17th for hearing a little bit about planning
17th.
and legislation.
Oh, St. Patty's Day. Nice.
Yeah.
So sit back with your green beer and join the conference from 1:30 to 4 on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
And then Joan from the toilet in hole there.
Yes. Oh, can you imagine? How fun. Ugh. How fun would that be? Just like projecting it at a bar. Who misses those places? Who can gather in with people?
I know, right?
It's very close.
I know. I think we're all getting a little long in the tooth for it, aren't we?
Totally. And then we do have our last day on March 24th of talks. So again, that's 4 sessions, about 30 minutes each, with a little bit of time to chat and catch up with people, because the platform we'll be using is called GatherTown. So it's you've got a little avatar, and when you come close, both of your screens come together. So your cameras turn on, your microphones turn on. So it's very much like you're moving through the crowd. It's going to be fun.
I can't wait. Oh, yeah. I'm going to so love that. Oh, that's amazing.
We used it last year for our AGM, and it was really successful and very satisfying to see, like, oh, like, look, Kurt and Jack are talking, and there's Colleen over there talking with Cindy, and, you know, like, just seeing all of these people coming together. And just like, you know, it's been so long since we've connected. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. You know, and I think, yeah, it's really been a long time. And I think we're all looking forward to spring at this point. We're feeling cooped up in Manitoba. It's been a real cold one, although it's beautiful today.
Yeah, so sunny.
A little bit colder than we expected, but the sunshine is just wonderful. We've been also very gray. Lots of snow. So, yeah, I think it's exciting to be able to do those things. And I think in our industries, it's really been 2 years away, you know, when it comes to seeing and feeling the other people in our industry. You know, renewables is that way. And it's not like, you know, certain industries where they're actually still together, kind of. So it is kind of incredible to be able to do this stuff again. And, you know, the 3 days, blowing it out over 3 days, it still sounds like it's going to be packed. You're jam-packed with information and speakers, and really interesting subjects too. And I think cost of building and financing and all of these things, like a lot of people don't understand the green and green, right? So they say, oh, it's expensive, it won't pay back for itself. And they say this about the cost of the building. I'm not talking about just renewables. It's very hard to make your case when people don't see beyond the first 5 years.
Totally. Short-term thinking is definitely dooming us in a lot of different sectors. It's not just the buildings area.
You know what's funny though?
Yeah.
If we're talking hundreds of years ago, it was never short-term. When they built a building, it was for the centuries.
I mean, I'm sitting in a 100-year-old house right now.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's structurally just as sound as the day it was built, with upkeep, right? So, or close to. Come on, they built things to last a bit longer back then.
They did.
And you know, look at some of the European cities and stuff built of solid stone and all of these structures that have been standing for hundreds of years.
Yep, absolutely.
And we have to get back to the cost of the building. We have to get back to the same mentality that we're building this not just for ourselves today, but we're building this for the tomorrows as well. And cost of building matters. If we don't have to redo it, then it doesn't have to come out and, you know, this goes in the trash and the next thing comes in. We've become a real material society where we don't value each piece that we hold. You know, this pen, can it be refilled? No, this one can't. But what I'm trying to say is, if we get more into tune with that mentality again, we're going to find the environmental situation goes away.
And absolutely.
You know, the reason it's not coming to a head just now because society's been around for centuries. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the mindset has changed. Since World War II, everything has worked to disposable, to quick, to ease, to whatever. And it's made us, you know, quite frankly, overweight, lazy, and into a very disposable lifestyle and mentality. And it starts with the building. It has always been at the core. We need to talk about the value set of that building to begin with, the envelope, the creating an energy efficient. I'm not saying we go back to basics. I'm saying use our technology to give us something more.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about a lot of great advocacy positions, which is why we've put a 4th day on this year. So on March 31st, it's the opportunity to come together and let's talk about what policy positions are needed. So we just learned all of this great thing over 3 Thursdays. Now let's come together and turn that into action. So what are the policies that the province of Manitoba need to do to get off natural gas? What are some of the policies that are needed from the city of Winnipeg to make sure that that they're using the good materials? So we're going to come together because, again, not only is it that we want to make sure that we're pushing for the right things that benefits everybody, but also we need to work together to make it happen. 2 or 3 people saying, "Hey, do this thing," is not nearly as powerful as 200 or 300 people.
Exactly, and holding them to policy that's already written.
Yes, that's a huge piece.
That. I mean, that sounds silly, but it really gets swept away, and it's kind of like our lives. You get busy with other things. You're dealing with the squeaky wheels that come up now, and so we have to keep the pressure on. Yeah. And it is not about recreating the wheel. In most cases, it's about taking what is already there, available and written, that is in the policies, and we just need to get them to adhere them, and so that we're moving forward as a province into something better.
Yeah, so you just nailed it. One of the big policy pieces we should be pushing for is enforcement. How are we making sure that these are monitored? Because you can have the best rules in place, but if nobody's making sure that they're being properly followed, what's the point? So making sure that you have that holistic approach. It's not just one thing. It is much like the building itself. If you only pay attention to the roof, or if you only pay attention to the foundations, you're not going to have a healthy, energy efficient building. So much as we have to make sure all of the pieces are working together in our buildings, same thing with our advocacy. We need to make sure that all of the pieces of the building codes are working together, that it's making sense from what's written in the code itself to how it's being enforced, to how it's being permitted, and everything in between.
Absolutely. Well, that's some pretty major key pieces. And and I know you've got a lot of great, how big is your membership right now? Do you know? Or it's pretty large, right? You got helpers and then you've got actual members too.
Yeah. So our membership, goodness, I can't remember exactly how big it is now. We have about 150 people in our membership.
And quite big actually for an organization. Quite a large size, so that's pretty impressive. And then of course we've got helpers as well.
Yeah,
I know because I help. I think I help a little.
Yeah.
I'm on the committee. I'm the co-chair on the Manitoba Sustainable Energy, which is why I was actually practicing. Pretty funny, I know. The name of your organization, because I keep wanting to call you Sustainable or Manitoba Sustainable Building, right? Versus Sustainable Building Manitoba. Keep reversing it. So hilarious. Just couldn't get it under my belt. I was trying.
And then the moment you overthink it, you're doomed to not get it right. That's what I find.
Oh yeah. It's really quite interesting. We have to go for a quick break, but I also wanted to talk about some of your success stories because I know you guys have been around for a little bit. So if you want to just hang back for a couple of minutes, we are going to go to break. And oh boy, I lost it. You know what? It is it's season 2, episode 1. So you're just gonna have to bear with me a little here.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you, with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE. Or
Welcome back, evolutionaries. We are talking to Laura Tyler from Sustainable Building Manitoba. See, I did it this time.
You did it.
I did it. Now I have a furry friend, Charlene, back there.
Well, the rule is if a pet comes in the room, you should show it. So good job.
Charlene is beautiful too. You know, she's my chewer. You know how they always the old adage of your dog chewed your homework. She's our chewer, and I literally have chewed corners on all of my paperwork since I moved my step home. Not a lie. My files and everything, the little corners. I mean, it's almost embarrassing. I got to change the folder before I head off to the client's house. Yeah, your folder got destroyed by my cat. I know. She's ruthless.
Yep.
I have a box on the floor with some moldings that I haven't had a chance to install yet, and she's got the corners all ripped off. I'm wondering when she's going to get to the moldings.
Oh, cats. Cats rule the world.
So tell me about some of what you feel your successes have been in the past, and then I'd just love to hear all about that.
Yeah, so recently we did an assessment of the climate action plan for the city of Winnipeg, and kind of have been noting that things aren't moving along as quickly as science is telling us that it needs to be. And so we found that there was 3 areas of investment that would be really helpful to move things forward, which is more staff for the sustainability office. Let's get things coordinated. We know that there's lots of good work happening, but making sure that there's like a central space pushing for it, and that it's helping to connect the different departments, huge. The other place is like, where's the sustainability office reporting to? You know, making sure, like, we know from business that having support for sustainability at the highest possible level of your organization is what makes the change. So that's true in government as well. You know, if you just have, you know, your frontline staff who are like, rah, sustainability, but your top players who are the top decision makers aren't like that, then you're not going to have the culture that supports more environmentalism. And then the third thing was the establishment of a community advisory council. So that was a major piece in the plan. There's so many people who want to do things, but like, how do they help? And, you know, the city is like, we're not rolling in money these days. So how can we also benefit from all of the expertise? Manitoba is full of so many smart people who are just so generous with their time and expertise. So like, why not take advantage of that? And it is, as I said, a key part of the plan. So we put together a letter, got 90 organizations to sign on to it, and sent it in right around the budget time. So that started a conversation and really got people thinking about, like, how can the city do things differently? So that was felt pretty nice to see happen, and was decently well received. And, you know, it's hard because people care so much, and so many people are trying. But we do need to pull together a little bit more.
I like anytime we're going to pull in the community too, because, you know, there's always going to be people that are out there going, how do I do this? How do I get involved? How do I?
Totally.
Lots of people are into social justice these days, and they want to do something that matters. They want to do something at home, and, you know, they may not be experts in everything, but they certainly garner an opinion of, and some people may think that's wrong and whatever, but that's not true, because raising everybody together is where you're going to hit that team effort into getting to our goals. And if we don't do that, I don't think we're going to meet our goals. I really don't. We have to do something now, because we're nowhere near target, to be fair. Not even on the road to it at the moment. I mean, I was in that meeting yesterday. Isn't that abysmal? I was just like, these graphs, they're not even accounting for getting there by 2050 on these graphs that we were seeing in the Engage, you know, meeting. And for those of you who don't know, the province is actively working with consultants, trying to see what the best way is to get to that goal at 2050. I'm thinking that they don't even think it's a target. What do you think?
Well, like right now, in the City of Winnipeg's climate plan, emissions from buildings go up to start, and it's like absolutely the wrong direction. So I do think that we need to move things faster. Just even updating the building codes will have such a huge impact, because one of the big things isn't just about fuel switching, but using less. Using less is huge. So I do think that we do need to come together more, because I think that like there are some voices that are against these, because it does cost a little bit more upfront, even though you save in the long term. Some people are just like really against some of those upfront capital costs. Goodness knows budgets aren't always structured that way to be like spend now, save later.
Nobody's saying that their voice shouldn't be heard as well. They should be, because that's you need to have the balance, right?
Totally.
Can't all be one thing, but also sometimes there can be some great conversation stimulated around that comes up with out of the box thinking and solutions too.
Well,
it can be exceedingly helpful.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I think that it's important to have everybody at the table, because, again, if you're just looking at those capital costs and you're like, oh no, it costs more money, but nobody's there to like help point out how it saves in the long run, then, of course, you're just going to be working with the information you have. And so that's one of the things that SBM really tries to do, is really tries to bring forward the information that is necessary to help you make the best decisions possible. That's one of the reasons that we're powering through 12 sessions over 3 days. We're trying to make it more of a buffet than a sit down big meal. So get a little bit of everything.
You do have a nice mix in there, I have to say. I was pretty excited to see some of the speakers and how you guys have it divvied out. There really is something for everybody in there, from all walks of life even. If you're retired and you want to spend a little bit of time coming to the conference and learning about these different things and how you too can then get involved. I think it's a great outlet for people who, to do that. And then, of course, people from the industry absolutely take part, because you're not going to walk away with nothing here. You're really going to learn something that you can take back with your company and be useful. So I think that's really key here. I think, and Jim starts it off there. I think that's great. He's always fun to work with in the respect that he really drives it home in dollars and cents. It's like having a green accountant in your house.
Yeah. Jim's been on the board of SBM for a long time. A lot of the people have been involved with SBM on and off in different capacities, either on committees, on the board, just been following along, attending our events. It's really exciting to see people from all of the different areas showing an increase in sustainable building. Because I've been with SBM for about 3 years now, and the amount of attention that buildings have been receiving has just increased over time. And hopefully that will continue to increase, and that we can take it seriously, because again, just these small changes, these small investments, well, I guess they're kind of big investments, but they make such a difference.
It's becoming a normalized conversation, and that's exactly like saying for green energy and storage systems now becoming more of a normal conversation, which is where it needs to be. So what we want is everybody who is going to be building a home, a business, whatever that structure may be, has these things in their mind when they're sitting down with their architect. It starts from there. It really does. And that's how you have it become a normal conversation.
Absolutely. And the architect can absolutely push their clients, but clients can also push their architects. So it really does happen at all places where you can have those opportunities to make your home building more energy efficient and decrease the greenhouse gases that it's emitting.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, no, I agree with that, but by having this two-way conversation where you have a more informed client and you have a more informed industry to respond to said client, I think the productivity level goes straight up. The questions are amazing. I know even when I'm getting the feedback and I'm hearing from clients, I love the questions they're coming with now. I love that there is a base knowledge there. Like it's not the same conversation as it was 10 years ago. It really isn't. And when I first started Evolve Green, I mean, I had questions as simple as, what does renewable energy mean?
Oh,
what does the word mean? Like, I mean, it started there. But you know where we started? We started in the schools.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking to kids. We were talking to teachers. We were doing SAG days. We were doing that. And I'm not saying we don't do it at all now, but we certainly did that. We did like yearly competition or contests for the kids to win renewable energy products for whatever, and they would submit what they're doing for their green initiative in their school, and there was winners. I mean, it was just great. And these are the kinds of things that started those conversations. Now these kids are adults.
Yeah.
These kids that I worked with, I have students coming from 7 Oaks School Division. We bring in kids, we train them, still go out to schools, not so much with COVID, but before that. And just, you know, in the schoolyard, we're showing them thermal, we're showing them, you know, all these different things that they can test, and we have all the testing equipment there, and you can see it, batteries and panels, and it's a great time, you know?
Yeah. That's so important. That's so important because we know a lot of people are suffering under the grief of the climate crisis that's coming, and they say one of the best ways to deal with that grief is to do something. So be it how you fix up your home, how it is you travel, but also like getting involved in the advocacy, just like helping to move the world forward is huge, and everybody can do it. But again, people need to know.
And if you think you're not suffering, here's a little bit of a something. It was about 6 cents a kilowatt for energy 5 years ago. Right? We're 10 cents. We're just shy of 10 cents now. So 4 cents a kilowatt may not sound like much, but it's exponentially high. You know, the increases are there. They're expecting, you know, anywhere like in that 7% raise climb every year. So if we're switching and adopting into all electric, and we're climbing at 7% per year for that all electric, you want to consume the least amount of energy that you possibly can. And if you're building, or you're renovating, or you're retrofitting, you have the opportunity to fix that.
Yeah,
totally.
Because, you know, like it's really hard to see that they're still building natural gas infrastructure. I know the city of Winnipeg tried to put forward a motion to stop that. But like that's going to be a stranded asset. It's going to be all of the money that went into putting it there, and then we're just going to have to switch out. So like I have friends who are like, oh, I need to buy a new boiler, and it's like, oh, are you sure you want to buy that natural gas? Like the economics might seemingly make sense right now because natural gas is so much cheaper than electricity. But then, like, what's the replacement cost in a few years as we move towards net zero? So I think a lot of people, again, you need the information to be able to make those decisions. And there's more and more of that information out there. We're certainly working on it. You're working on it. So many people are working on getting that information out there.
A lot of fantastic people in Manitoba are working hard for other Manitobans. And we spend our volunteer hours, guys. Absolutely. Why do we do that? Well, we do that for us. We do that for our kids. We do that for our communities.
Totally.
This is where we live, we breathe, and we want it to stay beautiful. Because we are beautiful Manitoba.
Yeah.
Having said that, don't forget to check out the conference. Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show today. You know, it's been amazing having you. I'm going to leave up your share stream for a second here, and I'm going to go out to credits, but don't forget, March 10th, you want to go to Building Resilience Pathways to Progress. I like the title. And that's with Sustainable Building Manitoba. Look them up. They're also in our description. You can find their stuff, and you can go click in and check out the conference online. It's really quite amazing. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's it for this time, and we will see you next week on Evolution Greenworks. We're going to be talking to Tygo about rapid shutdown for solar. One of the mandatory components for any DC touching a building with a string inverter is a rapid shutdown in Tigo is leading the way. That's all for now. See you next week.